In this job, there are numerous holidays that occur every year that require a minister to look at them with fresh eyes from one year to the next. Christmas and Easter, of course, come to mind. And the holiday that we celebrate this weekend, the life and work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I have to admit, as a white, middle-aged male minister of a mostly white but growing much more diverse by the day congregation, I do at times feel a sense of dread when this holiday rolls around. Let me give you an insider's perspective as to why. There are a variety of paths that UU congregations have taken to celebrate this holiday for years. For many congregations, they have celebrated the holidays in a very traditional way by reading the I Have a Dream speech year after year. Of course, it's a very compelling speech, a landmark speech, worthy to be heard again and again, but I've always felt a little weird having that be the center of a celebration year after year. I don't in any way begrudge those who do. I just wanted to find other ways to celebrate his legacy and the complexity of his life beyond the speech. And of course, there are many other things that we've designed services around. For instance, the letter from the Birmingham jail is a fabulous subject to focus on, something that Dr. King wrote that will live forever, particularly the line, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." The letter is certainly worthy of discussion. For instance, another point that has been an area of focus in previous years from the letter is his call to direct action instead of a more docile approach preferred by the white moderates of the time. It was a wake-up call and it was a challenge. There are so many incredible speeches, so many phases of his life that deserve deep reflection and celebration. We've done services about his more radical efforts late in his too short life, working on the incredible disparities of capitalism and his moral stance against the Vietnam War. So many things to highlight, so many things to learn. And yet part of the struggle for me as a UU minister is, how do we do that? Is this the one time a year that we reserve for black voices in our congregation? Do we find outside speakers of color to lift up over this weekend? What musicians do we ask to participate? What if they are all black? Does that tokenize black folks for a mostly white congregation? What if they're all white? Does that exclude black folks on a weekend when they should be centered? What thoughts, what words, what speeches, what actions, what? It's very, very confusing. But in thinking about this and being in conversation with Andrew, our social justice coordinator, whose birthday it is today. That's not in the script, I just said that, Andrew. But in talking about our efforts at this time of year, and largely actually based on the 8th principle that this congregation voted to approve last year and hangs on the wall just to the left of the door over there, I have come to this. Like most of the work that happens around the subject of race in this country, there will never be one right way to do anything, including the right way for a mostly white Unitarian Universalist congregation to celebrate the Martin Luther King Day holiday. So the focus of this year's MLK weekend service is that the lesson and legacy of MLK can't just be celebrated only one weekend per year. We can't just have a Martin Luther King service weekend without doing the work, the active work of service and justice the rest of the year and still really be living into his legacy. So what does this mean? It means that we as a congregation, both folks of color and white folks, have to be incredibly intentional about recognizing that it is really easy to fall into traditional patterns. We shouldn't just have voices of color and their experiences of this world be heard on one weekend in January. We should challenge ourselves to always bring the voices from the margins to the center. And we need to do this with the understanding that no one person speaks for all, and that we are working and long for the day where this is how we operate as a congregation and as a faith tradition, let alone a country. I was fascinated by the picture of the new House majority touting their diversity. Framed in the background of the picture, I saw only white men. Dr. King, the Dr. King that we celebrate, gave his life for more than just his work on civil rights, and it infuriates me how the right has adopted the line about judging people not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. What hypocrisy. They've twisted that line to serve their purposes in a way that I'm quite sure it was never meant to serve. He gave his life for a more sincere, less hypocritical, more empathetic world where there was real equality and equity, where those who have been excluded from power of public life could have a say through their vote, for resources to be more equally distributed, and that we do not resort to violence to solve our problems. I guess the lesson for today, at least for me, is we can't just idolize Dr. King and his legacy once a year if we really value his life, his example, and his message. We have to live it all year round. This doesn't mean this is the last MLK service on MLK weekend. What it is, however, is a call for us to think deeply about his life, his call, and his example, instead of just turning him into an idol for us to celebrate. Maybe we turn people into idols because it's human nature. We find the part of their lives and the work that makes us feel good. We like to find the thing that gives us the good feeling that we can hold on to, that makes us feel like we share something, some ideals, some thoughts. We like it when it helps us feel like we too have somehow contributed to the greater good, like we've accomplished something, and it's better because of the work of our idol and of our own accomplishments. Of course we like that. I love it myself. I love that feeling. And as it has been throughout history, often as soon as we think that we have made progress with injustice, inequality, greed, systems of supremacy, and hate, they seep their way through the cracks like raindrops in a rainstorm, finding old and new ways to make it to the mainstream until sometimes it fills the stream and turns it into a raging river. I guess if I wanted to say something, I would say, yes, let's celebrate. And yes, let's be grateful for the progress that has been made. And yes, let us acknowledge sometimes it feels like the work never ends. And yes, let us admit it can be exhausting. Exhausting. And yes, some of us realize that we've done our work, and we will have to let others spend the energy to move the ball down the field, to do the work. And also, yes, let us admit that in general, we can't rest because there continues to be plenty of work tearing down the walls of injustice, inequality, greed, systems of supremacy, and hate. In his last sermon at the National Cathedral, this is part of what Dr. King said. Quote, "I submit that nothing will be done until people of goodwill put their bodies and their souls in motion. And it will be the kind of soul force brought into being as a result of this confrontation that I believe will make a difference. One day, we will have to stand before the God of history, and we will talk in terms of things we've done. Yes, we will be able to say, we built gargantuan bridges to span the seas. We built gigantic buildings to kiss the skies. Yes, we made our submarines to penetrate ocean depths. We brought into being many other things with our science and technology power. Yet it seems that I can hear the God of history saying, that was not enough. But I was hungry, and ye fed me not. I was naked, and ye clothed me not. I was devoid of decent sanitary housing to live in, and ye provided no shelter for me. And consequently, you cannot enter the kingdom of greatness. If ye do it unto the least of these, my brethren, ye do it to me. And then he said, that's the question facing America today. Well, this remains his collective challenge to us. This remains our challenge to ourselves individually. This remains the challenge to this country. We will struggle. We will lose faith. We will grieve. We will recover our equilibrium. We will regain hope. We will connect, and we will move forward. It is a cycle. It happens year after year, and we cannot forget the victories of change that bring us closer to beloved community, and we must continue the struggle to eradicate the events and forces that drive us further apart. We will never not have our differences. Let me say that again. We will never not have our differences. If we can always remember the deep values that connect us and continue to heed that call, I truly believe no matter how muddy and rough the road, although we may not be there to see it, we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. May that be so, and amen.